And I think we're live. Yay!
Woo!
Hello, friends. Hello. Welcome.
We made it.
We made it. A few minutes late, but that's okay. Welcome to a meeting of the Quarterly Crit Club. Hi. This is our end of summer. That's what I've been calling it, I guess. Pick, because this is our summer read.
I mean, you technically only turned autumn a few days ago, right? So
yeah,
wait,
I think
when's
so.
Today?
When's meteorological?
Oh, is it today?
There you go. See, it's fine.
Today.
So we are fine.
Yay. So we are a book club that critically talks about books, critically as in like thinking deeply, not necessarily in a like it's distinctly negative or positive way, just deep diving into the themes about different books that we choose. And each quarter a host chooses a different book, and this one was chosen by Scylla.
Yay. That's me. This was supposed to be on my channel. However, alas, I live in Germany, and everyone who lives in Germany knows that the internet is fucking shit. So I have asked someone else to host because I was certain that the video was going to stop at least 15 times if I did that. So thank you, Steph.
You're welcome. Hi, Rouge.
Hey.
Hello.
Here for vibes. I love that. Doing good. Good. Amazing. Hi.
We have vibes.
Yay.
We have so many vibes, Rouge, don't you worry.
Yes.
All the vibes. To be honest, I don't know how much more aside from vibes I can provide today.
Oh no, I was gonna say the same thing. Are we in trouble?
This is gonna be vibes only, and that's okay.
I have realized I am just like 10 times better at, critically reading a book that I have previously already read when I know what's gonna happen, because otherwise I am too preoccupied with what's actually happening to have any thoughts.
In all fairness, that is precisely what happens at university too all the time. Someone will be like, you could write a paper on this book, and I'm like, okay, but like I need to read it twice. And they're like, why twice? And I'm like, because I haven't read it yet. I can't think if I'm reading. Listen.
Once to experience, another to think.
Right.
Oh my god, tteokbokki is like literally, I love it so much. It's always too spicy. I will start hating myself throughout like half of it, but I love it.
So true.
Yes, tteokbokki's 10 of 10 snack.
I also have a really good like recipe for tteokbokki that
Why have you not given that to me yet, Sarah? Excuse me. Hello.
How dare you? Bread I tried wasn't spicy. Nice. Yeah, I've usually only had it spicy, so.
I was about to say, are you eating tteokbokki if you're not crying in between?
Because I think tteokbokki specifically is spicy, and like if you're talking about like having the rice cakes but differently, that's the rice cakes just is like tok, and then it's called different things, but I think tteokbokki is like specifically the spicy.
Oh, is that because bokki is like specializing the sauce or something?
Yeah, like it's a very specific thing. I mean, I've also had like the instant ones are always way more spicy than.
Okay, we are way off topic, and that's okay. Send us the recipe. Anyway,
what's the topic? We don't have that.
If we want to talk about random other things, I am going to be streaming reading sprints starting at 1:30 my time EST, which is in about an hour and a half after we're done talking about this. And hopefully Scylla and Sarah will be joining me. And yeah, but anyway, woo! We're here to talk about the Water Outlaws.
Yay!
Floppy book.
Oh, I like
it's so floppy. I love it.
I got the hard one from the library.
It's okay. We'll flop in for you. Okay, thanks. We're doing. There you go.
I could do the pencil thing where I do like.
I love that. I tried to tab at the very beginning and then I just gave up.
I tabbed a few things. However, I mostly read this at work, and I was like, I don't want to tab all that. Thank you. No, Bruce, the book is not Greek mythology. The book is, in fact, inspired by a Chinese classic, which is called The Water Margin, or The Bandits from the Marsh, I believe, is the other title. It's a gender-bent version of that, actually, funnily enough, because the original bandits were mainly men.
Mhm.
No one is
I
surprised,
didn't
but
know that it's based on anything. I just
it
read it.
is. I mean,
Yeah.
I have heard. I haven't read the original, and I have heard from some people say that it like basically takes the province it's set in, and it takes the basic premise of there's bandits in the marsh, and they're kind of sort of maybe rebelling against parts of the empire, and then the book just goes rogue with that. So maybe we should say not necessarily an adaptation or anything, but based on.
Mm.
However, there is a actual Chinese classic which is said to be at least semi-historiographically accurate. So there's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I had context about that before reading this because it was all new to me. So I was like, like I
You
do.
have fun, though.
It mentions in it that it is based on that, but having not read it, I feel like I missed.
I didn't read the acknowledgements or author notes, so
I was like, I'm done with this. Thank you.
no, like,
Yeah, this review is gonna be a mess. Okay.
Unless it specifically says, which this one I don't think did. It just said acknowledgements. Unless it specifically says at the end, instead of author notes or something, historical notes or notes on translation or whatever, I will not read it.
Very
Because like acknowledgements 99% of the time are boring as fuck. It's like they're like very necessary, but like it's a bunch of names.
But yeah,
I
it's
read
like
them at
it's
the
on the
end.
last page of the acknowledgements, which basically starts with, and though they lived far in the midst of time, I think it right to mention the real historical figures whom Shi Nayan fictionalized in Water Margin, and whom I have taken further liberties with here. Song Jian, Emperor Huizong, Cai Jin, Gao Chu, Zhou Tong, and Hua Tuo were all real people, though perhaps some of them wouldn't be happy to be immortalized this way. I also brazenly borrowed the names, histories, or work of several other real people on my own. General Han Shizong, who was husband to the Song dynasty's most famous female general, General Liang Hongyu. Zhen Gonglian, the Song dynasty scholar who recorded the earliest known formulas for gunpowder in the Wu Jing Dong Liao. Shen Kuo, a polymath scientist of the Song dynasty, and Chu Yuan, poet and author of the Real Heavenly Questions. I like to hope they would get a kick out of having a cameo here a millennium or two later.
See, if on top of that, it's at the end of the acknowledgements, like
yeah, there was no chance. There was no chance.
Reading the acknowledgement, even if I tried reading them.
Yeah.
I think okay. I think it was better off not knowing.
Yeah, like I said, the people who have said that they know both have said that this book is at most a very loose retelling. Because as the author said, she's borrowed just several people and kind of just like shoved them in there.
Yeah.
I haven't read the Water Margin yet. I do want to. There's a few like really good translations out there apparently, because I don't know Chinese well enough to read a fucking Chinese classic. We're not even gonna start off by doing that, okay? But I have heard that the like based upon thing is at best in the name and in the fact that it's in Bianyang and it's in the mountains.
Okay.
And that's it. Done.
Good to know. Okay, so should we before we start getting deeper into it, should I announce what we're reading for the next quarter? In case anyone doesn't stick around.
Yes, do that. How about you announce it now, and towards the end we try and do another section where we talk a tiny bit more about it if necessary or something.
Okay, sounds good. So the next quarter, which is going to be end of fall, we're going. I don't know how we're doing this, but
like December, January.
Yeah,
around there.
Yeah. Is going to be chosen by me, and I have chosen for us to read Blood Scion by Deborah Falaye. The second book is actually coming out in November, so I'm very excited to reread this. So, tell you more
I forgot
about
it was. I forgot there were more books.
Yes, so I'm pretty sure it's just going to be a duology. So
I think so. Yeah.
When I looked it up, it said duology.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah.
So unless something happens in book 2 that warrants a third book, we're looking at a duology.
Yes. So, yay! And if you'd like to join the book club, Discord's linked down below. Follow Silasera. They're also linked below. Yeah. Okay. Should we start off with general ratings?
general thoughts, maybe, and then we
Yeah.
can see once we start getting into spoilers.
I was about to say, I know that everyone knows that in-depth critical book reviews come with those, but like, we're going to get into spoilers. Every single one of them, in fact. Unless we don't talk about the last 100 pages, there will be spoilers for the entire book.
We're gonna have to talk
general
about
comments.
we're gonna have to talk about the last 100 pages because I DNF'd. Sorry. Like, okay, I DNF'd it at about 85%. So I don't know. I don't know if that's. I think
What chapter is that? You need to tell me chapter stuff,
hold
man.
on,
I
hold
cannot
on.
do math on the fly. That's not how this works.
I was like mostly audio and then trying to follow along with my physical read. Let me see what chapter this was because the audiobook doesn't.
85% should be like around page 400-ish.
Something like it says track. I'm like, that doesn't help me.
But the book is just under 500 pages, so like 20% is 100 pages.
Yes.
It should be like somewhere between 430 pages.
Yes, something like that. Somewhere around here.
So I have made it approximately to the part in my reread where you did in fact DNF.
Although the question is, does your edition have the short story at the end?
Yeah.
Like not
Let
connected?
me find out. See acknowledgements.
Because that makes a difference.
It does. It makes a difference of like 30 pages.
No, after the epilogue, there's also like our edition has a short story.
It's called The River Judge.
No, this doesn't have that.
Okay. So you should be even a bit further than. Wait, no.
No,
well, no, I think
earlier.
the math still checks out pretty
Does
much.
it?
I think probably somewhere at the beginning of when they started the assault.
The assault on the marshes. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I made it to chapter 29, which is roundabout where that all fully gets rolling. So.
Okay.
Anyway, we're starting to get into spoilers.
Yes. Okay, so here's why we have to talk about what happened, because I need one of you to explain it to me, because the truth is, so I'm going to say, I don't think it was a bad book at all. I think it was actually a good book. Part of me feels like a majority of the reason why I DNF'd is a me problem. Because I've come to realize in the past like year and a half or so, I don't like long books. I'm like, at a certain point, if I'm like, why are we here? It's too long for me. And I'm like, just hurry up and get to the climax. That's what I was feeling.
For me, it was different but similar. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, actually. I think. Once again, also not a bad book. I have specific gripes with it in terms of choices that the author makes that I would have preferred they don't make. With choices, however, it's always very difficult if like sometimes it's the kind of in-between space of like where you're not quite certain, is it choices because like am I not liking the choices because the other choices would legitimately make it a better book, or am I not liking the choices because the other choices would make it a better book for me? I don't think there's always a clear distinction between those two. So I'm like, I have legitimate gripes with it. I did already say some of the gripes within the Discord also. I really enjoyed one of the storylines. So we have two main storylines within it. I was really into one of them. The other one, after the first 100 pages, not gonna lie, couldn't have cared less about the Outlaws. I was just like, please.
So remind us, which storyline were you more interested in? Was it Lin Chong or Junyi? Lu Junyi.
Yeah, I really liked her. I really liked the press writer, the girl with bombs.
Yeah.
I really thought that the general was
the printing press owner, correct? Yes,
really. The general was set up really, really well. But as soon as we got into her being with the Outlaws, there were so many characters that I stopped caring about the singular characters because it felt like they got like one short setup. This is this type of character, this is this type of character, this is this type of character. And then I also had the personal issue, which I also talked about, because I don't read closely. I am not a close reader. I don't read words by reading every single letter. I see a word and I recognize it by its form, generally speaking. With names, that means I don't read names fully with every single letter. There's a character in Jenny Wirtz's Wars of Light and Shadow that I think is called Caradmon. I consistently read it as Cardamon. Because the general look of the name is like, I look at the outline, I look like how many H's or B's there are. And when there's a lot of names that are just two single syllables, mostly, they all look the same to me. Because of how I read.
I can understand.
And then I just remember, oh, this was the character with the W, starting with the W. Shit, there's a second character that starts with the W. It's exactly the same. I don't remember which was which. And that also made it really hard for me. Like the one of the, I think the one who then later became the leader of the Water Outlaws or something, like one of the leaders.
Lin Chong?
It took me a really long time to realize when they were talking about this person that they weren't talking about one of the evil guys.
Oh, you mean Gao Tai. You mean Gao Tai.
Oh, yes.
Because the name looked the same.
No,
it's because they have the same, westernized spelled out last name, because they're both called Gao, but that doesn't mean it has to be the exact same name, because, Chinese characters.
Yes. And I think that was a problem for me as well in the audiobook. And again, this is not a fault of the book at all. I think I'm in agreement with Sarah. It's like, it's a me thing because I'm not familiar. Also, when I'm not reading it, so I can't see if there's like any accents or any, I'm just listening to it. And there were multiple characters that started with this, that had a similar phonetic
there
sound.
were also a bunch who were started with like Lu. But there, I had an easy time. Like that's for example an example, because like for example Lu Junyi and Lu was the Lu Da.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they had the same starting syllable, their names look very distinct.
Mm-hmm.
That would be because 3 and 2 syllables respectively in the entire name.
Yeah. So I would say I had a similar issue to Sarah later when the Outlaws came and they were all together, like with Lu Junyi and everything. And then there were multiple people interacting with each other with similar sounding phonetic, translations through the narration. I was getting a little bit lost. But also I think I had a similar thought of I really liked Lu Junyi's storyline, the first half of the book. I did enjoy Lin Chong's as well, but I think there came a certain point around 50-60% where things kind of changed direction before they got to the point where they met up, and I was like, I kind of just want to cut all this out. But
interestingly, I'm exactly opposite, because I think Lin Chong's storyline specifically would have worked better for me if this had been at least a duology. Because then we could have spent a lot more time with the Outlaws. We could have spent a lot of time with, because as far as I got it, there's quite a bit of time passing during the book.
There is?
I mean, there's at least a couple of months passing.
Okay, that's fair, yeah. In my brain, it was
we could have gotten, I would have loved to get more from Lin Chong as she slowly, kind of gets in with the Outlaws, and seeing her changing her opinion from being this very strict adhering to laws. Yes, now the inciting incident of, just because I adhere to the laws can be unfair and corruption, yada yada. Getting from this inciting incident to where she is at the end of the book, I think for me it would have needed more of a thorough arc following her during that. Even though I, as a reader, understood why like that it didn't come to me sudden. Like, so it's not like I'm saying this wasn't well written and like she changed her mind out of nowhere. No, I understand what happened in between. I just would have liked to see it more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you would have liked to let it simmer before
Yeah.
we had such, well, it's not necessarily an abrupt change, but it's an accelerated change. And that's the thing, right?
It's accelerated because there are like at least a few weeks in between that we skip constantly.
And like it makes sense with how the book is set up, you know, like again, it's not necessarily a thing of like the book doesn't know what to do with its pages. It's more so a thing of like, well, if they had let me sit with this, I might have liked that more.
Yeah, so I hesitate to say that anything was necessarily, I don't think anything was bad. Again, I feel like for me it's more of a taste situation.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I've been reading Liangshan literature for okay, first of all, this is a reread for me in case anyone is wondering, because once again I picked the book so I know it already. But second of all, I have the somewhat unfair advantage of reading a lot of Liangshan novels right now, which are two distinct Chinese genres of literature essentially, or like ways of expressing things. It's not necessarily a genre, it's a category more so, in my opinion. So I am very well versed in navigating names that sound exactly the same or at least very similar to one another. But I understand that this, especially with the like amount of bandits we see at some point, because you know it's not just like 2 people, it's more like 30, and at least a solid 15 have some sort of speaking role in the book that kind of makes them at least somewhat important. Plus, there's this whole faction situation going on in the bandit camp as well, where you have different people believe in different things. So it's a little bit important, politically speaking, to keep a tiny bit of a track on this. Things are hard, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that I necessarily like that it challenged me how many characters there were, because I do read enough fantasy, right? Like, I can handle a lot of characters, but I think the specific implementation of how it was with the characters in here, like, I would have preferred to have, for example, you know, to have all those names, but to then have more, you have that a little bit, but to have more, like, fewer representative roles, quote unquote. And it felt like it was a little bit there, but not quite enough for me, to the point where I then was like, yeah, okay, I can fully interact with these factions. And I just stopped caring. You know, I have, as it is, Scylla knows, as it is, I have a really hard time getting into characters. I don't care about characters. When Scylla tells me I didn't particularly like a book, the character saved it for me, I know it will be a 2-star for me at least.
Yep. We have a system going on here, okay?
I don't get into characters. I don't fall in love with characters easily, which on the other hand means typically I don't necessarily need to love characters a lot to enjoy a book a lot. So like, me not falling in love with these characters isn't the criticism that it usually would be for someone else, maybe. However, I need to be able to get a feel for the characters. And I didn't really get that here personally, with like how it was set up.
I think that's fair. I'm a very plot-driven reader. I will say, once things started getting very magical, and with like when they started going deeper into the God's Teeth and the what was the other one? The God's Fang, I think.
God's Teeth, God's Fang, and Scholar's Stone.
Yes, and Scholar. So once they started getting more into like the fantastical elements of it, I would say I'm still very new, especially compared to the two of you when it comes to fantasy. Like, I'm not a big fantasy reader, so us doing this whole book club has definitely been pushing me into a new zone for me, because I don't tend to gravitate towards fantasy. I will say, as someone who watches Asian dramas a lot, I don't typically choose to pick up C-dramas because they tend to be more fantastical. Like once people start flying in the air, I'm like, nah, this isn't for me.
On wires, specifically on wires.
Yeah.
I'm just here with the vibes. I'm actually at the level of like with a lot of retellings, I'm like, is this even fantasy? I mean, sure, like Western genre conventions wise, this is fantasy. Like the God's Fangs and the God's Teeth, yeah, they're fantasy, but like, are they really though?
For me, this is very fantasy. I'm like, oh, I'm in a new place right now. This is not.
No, you see, Sarah, my impression of the Water Outlaws is always, if I were to recommend this to someone, I would recommend it to fans of She Who Became the Sun. Because
Which
it
was
has
not for me.
because it has a similar historical aspect. While it does have some quote unquote magic, that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
It's often deeply tinged with actual Chinese mythology, like the ghost scene, for example, both in the Water Outlaws as well as in everything that goes on in She Who Became the Sun. That's distinctly Chinese, not just mythology, but like everyday belief systems.
Yeah.
Like they're not these like super magical beings that we have in like westernized horror stories, but they are actual representations of ancestors, for example. So like they're not fantasy. That's the point here. They're not supposed to be fantasy.
That's what I mean. It's like for me, these elements, and also with She Who Became the Sun, they are so ingrained within like belief and like folklore, that it doesn't feel like it feels fantastical, but it's kind of similar if you have a book that's set in Ireland and there's fae there. It
Okay.
just is. And if you've ever been to Ireland, it's like you walk through like the coastal areas or just like between castles, and you're like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a ghost. Like,
or you hear from the people living there, like, don't touch that stone. You're like, all right, I'm not touching that one. They know I'm not touching it.
See, and okay, that's something I want to clarify, because I agree that the thing about like ghosts, we're sick on the example of ghosts specifically, to me does not register as fantasy. That's not the part that's fantasy to me, because the same thing is also in like Hispanic culture, is like, if there's a ghost, it's an ancestor. It's like, there's certain things that are considered. This is why I struggle with the idea of magical realism, because depending on the culture, it's not, magic is not the word that we would use to describe it. It's just, it is life, right? So for me, that wasn't necessarily the fantastical part. It's the like, people are flying and fighting in the air part.
See, once again, this is where Chinese genre classification is important, because if this were to be classified by Chinese standards, it would be wuxia, which is a genre that works with martial arts, specifically the enhancement of, I think, kung fu movies. That's it. That's what this is. And that's also where the God's Teeth are coming from, because that's just chi manipulation, which is a standard in any fighting technique that any fighting instructor in this world is going to tell you. And it's less so a like, there's actual supernatural people flying through the air. It's supposed to be an enhancement of physical abilities that someone has. It's just that the way it is described specifically in wuxia books makes you think that people are actively flying like 25 feet through the air. That's not necessarily what they're doing. The point is to showcase that their martial prowess is so extraordinary that a normal person would see them as flying. That's kind of the point here. And again, this is why classifying this by Western standards or like Western genre conventions, even though technically this is from an author who I do believe lives in the West, I'm pretty sure, kind of fails. I think so, yeah. It kind of fails because this is just so deeply entrenched in that. And that's also one of the reasons I like it so much, because I read a lot of wuxia and xiaoxia, and it just, they do so much fun shit, man.
I'm gonna like, that's why because I did read like the first two books in
the Condor Heroes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because within Western like genre publication, it's always quoted and blurbed as a Chinese Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
This has nothing to do with Lord of the Rings. Like, not ideas wise, not method. Like, there's hardly any mythology in there aside from like magical big birds that make an appearance every now and again. The rest is just martial stuff that seems vaguely like overpowered.
Yep. And then there's there's actual historical figures in the background. There's empires that fight and fall because the Chinese empire kept falling apart anyway, because why the fuck not? There's different references to different dynasties, which is also what happens in here. It's all just one big ball of, there's not really a lot of ways to put this into Western genre classifications.
I think that's something, I'm not sure if you got that far. Maybe we'll start getting into spoilers now.
Seriously, can I talk about this, please?
Go for it.
That's something that's later. I forgot what is the God's Tooth and what's the God's Fang, but like the alchemical one.
God's Tooth is the natural one, and the God's Fang
and
is
the God's Fang. At the end, they were kind of like considering, okay, what can we do to connect to make someone else connect to the God's Fang?
Mm-hmm.
And the solution then was, okay, we can't change anything about the God's Fang. We have to change the essence of the person connecting to it. And I think that's something that like translates as magical to us. However, if you've even just touched TCM, so traditional Chinese medicine, or even though I know it's not Chinese, but yeah, like more holistic healing stuff like Ayurveda, it's all about the essences in the body. I mean, it's even within ancient Greek and medieval times, you know, we had that here.
The humors, the four humors.
Yeah, the four humors. It's like very similar to that. And so it's less about magically changing someone. It's more about medically changing someone.
Because why not? I will also say one of my favorite scenes about that like realization in particular is Lu Junyi then making the concoction and then just basically being like, if Gao Chu chokes on it, I will be so fucking happy.
Okay,
and like she is correct.
I want to talk about Lu Junyi and Lin Chong's like opposite perspectives.
Yes.
Yeah, I found them so interesting.
Yes.
So the way that they come in the beginning of the book, that I feel like they start off as very opposite, and even towards at least the part that I got, they're opposite, but it's kind of flipped. And it's so interesting because the way that their worldview changes as to like what is justified behavior for the empire based on their parallel experiences until they converge again. I loved that.
I love their character arcs and how they intersect and then completely diverge is one of my favorite things of this book, because they are mirror images of one another. Like even in the like figure constellation you have, Lu Junyi starts out as this leader of this, you know, for lack of a better word, book club. She starts out as this leader of a group of people who regularly come together to talk about things. Some are even very close to being very disloyal to the empire. She throws her money, wealth, and everything she has against the empire, investigating into certain people, you know. And on the other hand, you have Lin Chong, who, while widely regarded as a good martial arts instructor, is painted as very lonely. Like, she doesn't have a lot of people close to her. Lu Junyi might be the closest person she has to a friend in the beginning of the story. And then, as their actual story...
I will say they are friends.
They are friends, yes.
I'm not going to say the closest. They very clearly are friends. And it's shown in, like, how much she worries.
But like Lu Junyi is essentially the only person we see fully interact with Lin Chong in any capacity that makes us think, okay, so these people, they have some sort of bond going on here. Like there's companionship for Lin Chong. She's not completely alone in this world, basically. But the more the story goes on, the more these are flipped. Suddenly, Lu Junyi is the one who's completely alone. She's left by her lover. She doesn't interact with her servants anymore. She doesn't do any of her meetings anymore. She doesn't even use her printing press anymore. She is completely isolated because of Caijing. And on the other hand, Lin Chong is finally experiencing at least a sense of camaraderie, or at least a sense of a common purpose with the people around her with whom she has to interact almost daily, because, you know, the place that they're in is pretty confined space-wise. And that alone is so interesting for me to consider because it directly, it has a direct impact on how they change as people throughout the story, which I think is really cool. I love these two. Okay, I love the book. I'm very, very biased.
Hi, Roro. Oh, you read it. Awesome. Oh, Roro wanted to be more fantastic.
See, this is what we mean. Selling this book as fantasy is both understandable in Western, like in Western genre conventions, and also wrong because people who are genuine fantasy fans might not like it because it's not really that much fantasy.
Yeah. Also, don't worry about being late. I did a really bad job of advertising when this meeting was gonna happen. I am so sorry.
In all fairness, we all kind of just improvisation is our second language.
You know what I will say though? I did notice this later. My library actually has it categorized as science fiction, not fantasy.
Interesting.
Which I think makes sense.
Yes.
Because I do believe that while like the results might seem more fantastical, the main focus of the fantastical element with the God's Fang is very much scientific.
It is very sci-fi,
yeah, definitely. And I mean, it also strays fully into alchemy, which is the predecessor to what we call science. Like, definitively, historically speaking, it is the predecessor to what we call science. So,
yeah.
Which is, to me, part of what made Lu Junyi's whole, like, everything she went through with the experiments and the couple and the way that they were figuring out the God's Fang, that part was some of my favorite moments.
I do also, I love her arc. What I like about her arc, among everything else, is I love how S.L.Huang writes Terra. I love how well she conveyed, at least to me, that Lu Junyi was fucking terrified out of her mind 24/7. The second Saijing got her fangs into her, she was just, that woman was on the verge of a breakdown basically every single moment of her life.
I think that's also one of the very interesting things where even though Lu Junyi works for the villains of the story, you don't really blame her, right? You don't blame her for saying, fuck it, I'm like, this goes against everything I believe in. I don't want to help these guys. I'm just gonna take it and die, because of like how very clear it is that she is terrified out of her mind. And like, I did really like the very beginning when she has the idea of like getting the couple out, and she says it, and she's like, fuck shit, I should not have said that. Stupid mouth. Why couldn't I keep my fucking mouth shut?
And in the beginning, you also see how she desperately tries to back out of this, but Saijing won't let her, and there is no way for her to let him down except the incredibly polite route, which didn't work because Saijing doesn't fucking care. He wants her brain. So it doesn't matter. And there's no way she can say no to him without making it into a suicide for her, like actual suicide, not just political, but actual suicide.
Yeah, correct.
And the thing is, I did find it very interesting because in a way, both characters start in the same way, in that like a very powerful man wants something for them, from them, but with like physical violent assault, obviously the results, like, you can also like, Lin Chong did also have the thing of like, why didn't I just like not do anything? Why didn't I just take it? So like, sure, there's the option there of also just taking it, but like it's a very different type of assault, like but it's still portrayed in a parallel way to each other.
Absolutely.
The entire interaction that sets off Lin Chong's journey into the Outlaws and causes her to be banned from. Ow, Kitty, stop poking me! Sorry, just like poking my butt.
She's like, that's mine.
Yeah, no, she wants food, but I'm like, you gotta wait a minute. What was I saying? God, okay.
The interaction that says everything else.
Okay. Yes. So the pivotal moment when Lin Chong's journey starts because of the assault that she experiences, and we see her try to accept it because she feels that she has no other way of preserving her career and her place in the hierarchy of things by simply just accepting the fact that she is going to be SA'd. Which that moment, I feel like, I don't know, out of everything else in the book, that one made me the most enraged, to see her not have any other options. I don't know where I was going with this. I was going somewhere with this. Anyway, I just found that a really powerful moment of like this woman who has so much power, but at the same time has no power at all.
And I did also really like the choice of her being an older main character, because she's at least mid-40s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
And
she said,
she remarks upon that, right? Like she
mid-40s.
says, I'm too old for him. Why does he still want me? I'm older than Lu Junyi. I'm not as pretty. I'm not supposed to be beautiful. I'm not supposed to be desirable. Why does he want me? Which is tragic, because of course there is no rhyme or reason to it. And that's the point, right?
And I do think it's very well set up, and also in a way where there's not like, I approve. My brain doesn't do words right now. Approve isn't the right word, but like appreciate. I appreciate that. That was an EPP word. I appreciate the way that this whole scene is set up. Again, also with the terror, because it's like, okay, Lu Chunyi and like Lin Chong against is like premonition. It's like, oh no, why was she asked there? I'm gonna join her. And then nothing happens to her in that specific scene. You don't know if what's the guy's name actually wanted anything from her, but the one who ends up getting in trouble is Lin Chong.
Gao Chu is his name. Gao Chu is his name.
That
I got you. Though I could provide names. It's okay. I'll probably figure out which one it was.
And it's not set up in a way of like, oh, he takes her now, but because he couldn't get the other one. It just, it just happens.
Yeah. The way
I had this idea now. Let's do this.
Yeah. The way that I kind of interpreted it is that, like, because it's not common to have a woman of her rank in the military, of her to be like the military escort in some way to Lu Junyi when she was visiting. And so the way that I saw it, of him choosing to assault her and not the younger, more like conventionally beautiful counterpart, is like a power grab. A reminder of, you have power that is bestowed upon you by me, and don't forget that.
Yes.
And with that, keep talking. I'm gonna go feed my cat so she can stop poking me in the
Okay. So Rouge, from everything that I remember, there is no actual like written out.
I would say yes. Yes, it is sexual assault, but
that's
it doesn't
true.
come to rape.
Yes, it is sexual assault. It's very obvious what Gao Chu wants from her, and he is most definitively pressuring her into that direction, but it never happens, specifically because Lin Chong says, fuck that.
He also does, like, grope her.
Yes, he does. He does, and she, for a good amount of time within that scene, thinks to herself, like, I should let this happen. It'll be over quick. It'll be a few minutes, which, is... Anyway, she essentially tells herself, I need to lie down and accept this, because if I do, it'll be over soon. And then it's done, it's over with. And then her body more or less acts on its own. That's at least the way that she describes it. It basically just goes, no, fuck that. We're fighting this now. We will not be letting this happen. which again kickstarts her journey off. And I don't remember there being any other instances of this particular kind of content in the book afterwards. There is, however, a good amount of first of all, there's a lot of violence because this is wuxia, and there's a lot of people fighting and there's a lot of people dying in pretty gruesome ways. But I don't remember there being any more sexual assault scenes.
I don't remember if there's if any of the outlaws has the background of having been assaulted by their husband.
I don't think so. If there are backgrounds like that, they're not revealed to us. Like, we don't learn a lot about them anyway. Like, we learn
there's
for
two people that we know about.
Yeah, basically.
Like when she talks to the poet and the poet is like, oh, these people are that, these people did that, and they are cannibals.
Yes. And the black what were they called? The black I'm trying to say Herberge, but that's not an English word. Help me.
I don't know.
For God's sake.
Tavern?
Yes, that one. Also, Bruges, just in case you want to know, let me see. So in my edition, which is the paperback edition, this one, the scene essentially ends on page 31. So the whole assault thing between Gao Chu and Lin Chong.
I believe it's the second chapter.
It's the second. Is it the second? It is the second chapter. It is the second chapter, and it ends slightly before the chapter ends, and that's it. We do get Lin Chong thinking about the situation every now and then, but not in a lot of details specifically about what happened there. Basically just her kind of lamenting the fact that it took away her choice in a way.
Did I miss anything, or are we still talking about the same thing?
Yeah, we're talking about the same thing. We were just discussing what exactly was that happened.
We put both of our brain cells together and tried to answer Rouge's question of whether or not sexual assault happens, and if so, if it happens in more than that scene.
Good job.
But yeah, I think I just preferred Lu Chunyi's chapters because they just felt like, aside from focusing really on just one character, they felt, and I can't even put my finger on it exactly what about them was that, but they felt more thematically concise and motivated, and more thematically pulled straight.
I do believe this might be because it focuses on Lu Junyi almost exclusively. We have Fun Rui and her husband. We have Cai Jing, who gets 3 chapters maybe. So we have that, but it all follows an incredibly clear path of motivation. The motivation is Cai Jing wants to figure out how to combine a god's tooth with a scholar stone because he would like to make what is essentially gunpowder so he can go kill people. That's it. That's it. That is something that follows the entire storyline of Lu Junyi. Whereas with Lin Chong, we have a lot more of she needs to be accepted by the bandits because this is the only place she's left to go. The bandits have their own storylines, which also kind of go there. And so now Lin Chong's motivation is kind of not really there anymore because she has technically already been accepted. And so we basically just follow 2 side quests that the bandits do.
And while meant with thematic, by the way, for me, the thematic thing was Lu Chunyi's theme is very much struggling, knowing you're doing the wrong thing, but having to do it. That is the theme. As it pertains to the bigger theme of rebellion against the empire. It's shall I rebel to the detriment of my own personal health or not? That's the big theme in there. Whereas with the bandits, you can still have 1 or 2 major themes, even with the whole side quests and plots and the different motivations going on. You could still have everything leading into 2 or 3 central themes, and it just felt like a lot of stuff that was happening there was just there because we had to set up a new side character instead of that side character then also pulling on the same strand of theme. if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I was trying to get at, the whole like scattered feeling of various different characters who don't necessarily thematically go in the same direction up until the very end, where things completely escalate because Saijing decides to blow things up, because why not?
Mhm.
I think maybe that's my issue, because I didn't like where it ended up thematically. Should we talk about the ending?
Please explain.
I didn't think that the ending fit with the themes of the rest of the story. I wanted the outlaws to die, because for me, the empire, the whole thing of the book was the empire and the emperor are overly powerful.
Mhm.
These bunch of women have no way of defeating them. Like, nothing about the book during the book made me feel that this was gonna end in a heroic way.
Mhm.
And if it was gonna end in a heroic way, it was gonna end in a heroic tragedy. And so for me, the ending of the book, where both villains are defeated essentially, even though one of them does now have the God's Fang, he's like now hidden away by the emperor. And the other one just was completely dead. It didn't fit with the rest of the book for me.
So hold on. So the villains were defeated, but the empire did not fall.
Because the empire was never supposed to fall.
Okay.
That this is something. Okay, this is actually something before we start talking about your points against Sarah, because I do think they're really good ones. I want to clarify this because I've seen this pop up in some reviews and it bothers me. The point of the Water Outlaws is never for the empire to fall. Never, not once. Every single character who rebels against what is currently happening in the state of the world is rebelling against people, individual people. There is never a rebellion against the empire. I know that the book
I agree with that.
Yeah, and
By the way.
I know that the book kind of tries to every now and then set this up a little bit, specifically in how people talk about and refer to this book, but this is not a story of rebellion against the empire, because the empire is everything. First of all, it's a justification thing. First of all, right? Like, the characters lie to themselves. They tell themselves, we're doing this not to rebel against the empire, but we're doing this for a better life. We're doing this for a better world. We're doing this because I don't fucking know. We want to do this, but we are doing this specifically for the people. This is a clear justification / manipulation tactic from everyone across the board. But the really important thing is, specifically in Chinese history, you did not rebel against the emperor. The emperor was God, not just a representation of God.
Yeah,
like
that's
it was...
why he's not a character in this book.
Exactly, he is not a character.
You never see him in any way, shape, or form.
He's a presence. He's a presence that even Cai Jing, who is this all-powerful entity from Lu Jinyi's perspective, even Cai Jing has to kneel down and wait for his approval to even rise, because that is the whole point. And it is so deeply ingrained in this type of historical setting that it is impossible for any character within the confines of this book to ever even think about rebelling against the emperor, because they don't want to do that. And it's partially because they're trying to motivate the people, because what better way to motivate people than to say you're doing it for their sake, right? But it's also legitimately because they cannot conceive of doing anything against the emperor, because if they did, that would not just be treason. That's the thing. It would not just be treason. And so the point was never for the empire to fall. The point was for the fault lines to be exposed and for some people in power to be eliminated. The important point here is people. The emperor is not people. The emperor is the emperor.
I think maybe that's my issue, because the way the book ends, even though, yes, you can say that between the lines, it still is like the acknowledgement now that the empire as a whole is bad. It feels like with those two people dead / gone, it does feel like a heroic ending, and like the whole setup of like, it's not just people, it's the system as a whole that is fucked, did not come to the solution that I wanted it to come to. Because they reached their goal. They reached the goal of defeating the people that they wanted to defeat. And thus, the whole setup that I thought was gonna be there and that I wanted to have come to fruition of like, it's not about the people, it's about the system, it just goes poof. It just
That's
poof,
where
and it's
I
gone.
thought it was going.
And it's like, maybe they're a little bit, because in the epilogue it is acknowledged that like the emperor is gonna have to do something against them at some point. So like, yeah, they are now in opposition with the emperor directly, more so than they have been previously, yada yada. So it is there a little bit, but it is not there in a way that was satisfying and narratively satisfying to me. And that was actually the main reason why I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, because during most of the book, I was like, it's either a 3.75 or a 4-star read. And then they killed one of them, and the other one, has the God's Fang, but is now hidden away, and everything is good for now. It just didn't, like, even with the everything is good for now, there wasn't, in the epilogue, there wasn't enough dread there. Like, if they had that, but like, if S.L.Huang had put in more of the terror of like previous chapters, I think I would have been more happy than with what it was. It was too much like, everything is fine now. And it just
Basically, you have
felt very disappointing to me.
basically you have a problem with how disconnected the terror from previous parts feels with the
it felt like the themes that were set up earlier of like, with all the characters being like, hey, it's just about these people, it's not about the empire, which felt like, yes, the characters are saying this, but the author is putting a wink wink there. And like, that theme of the characters have to come to realize that it's the system and not the people, never actually properly was then pulled through to the end.
That's exactly what I was hoping would happen, was that with what you wanted it to what you're saying you wanted it to be is exactly what I was hoping would happen. Because then my next question would be like, okay, if they don't acknowledge that it's the system that is flawed and these people are now removed from their positions, who is it addressed who they're replaced with?
I'm not gonna say it's not there at all. Again, like, the end is very much everything is good now, because like the Water Outlaws survive, most of them at least. They now have new leaders, and Lu Chunyi used her press to talk about them, and so now they have a lot of people coming to them. And they now, with the kind of like empire turning a blind eye within their province, now oust all the corrupt politicians and magistrates and everything. But they won't, but the end is like, they won't be able to do that forever, because the emperor sooner or later is going to have to do something against them, and that is acknowledged in that way. But it's not like, plot wise, for me, the theme of the system is the thing that should have been risen up against, isn't like fully there. I think for me the problem is that the setup wasn't rising up against the system, but the setup was, the system is all powerful. And it's like neither. It's like the system also in the end wasn't all powerful, because right now it's not all powerful because we survived.
I mean, they did survive, but I do think the book makes it fairly obvious that they are surviving right now because the emperor wills it. And that's kind of the thing, like the empirical system is in place, because that system is not shaken at all. Not even by the fact that Saijin goes rogue, because the emperor actually does tell him to back off. And he doesn't. And he gets punished for it by the narrative, right? So don't do anything against the emperor.
Yeah, but he doesn't get punished by the emperor for it.
No, but he gets punished by the narrative. That's the point. he rebels against the Lord of the Heaven, and then he gets his just rewards for it, which is that
I
he's not a
think,
hero anymore, nor close to the Emperor.
I think maybe the problem there is like reading with different cultural backgrounds, because for me it didn't feel like it was punished by the narrative of like because he was rebelling against the narrative. For me, he was just like the Water Outlaws got the upper hand over him and he was too arrogant. And
he was
the
too arrogant, but
Water Outlaws don't feel like the punishment as a solution, as a result of going against the Emperor. It felt like as a result of going against the Water Outlaws. Does that make sense?
yeah, it makes sense. I'm just over here like, you know, like the Emperor deliberately told him to back down and he didn't.
Yeah.
So that's where all of that comes into play. The thing is, what I find so interesting about this book in particular is, while again they do kind of fault the system every now and then, they always specifically fault the system on the basis of corrupt officials.
Yeah, no,
Like that's something that's really important here to remember. Is it's not the system as we would see it, for example, as in, oh my god, only corrupt people get put into power. It's there are corrupt people in power, so they have to be removed, but the power can stay there. Like the power can stay with the stations. It's just that we need those specific people to fuck off. Which again is like it's a different way of looking at things, which is what some people I've seen had issues with. And like I get it to some degree, because I do think the book itself, like the way the book is talked about, not necessarily the way that the narrative goes. I think the narrative is incredibly clear about what it wants in that regard.
no.
Like, you know, like every now and then we get it spelled out because the character's like, so like we're not going against the Emperor, right? So we're not doing that.
You know, I will say I actually find that a little bit refreshing. And I think, like you're saying, like there is a difference between how we typically see it represented in more Western traditional stories of this kind of rebellion uprising of like, okay, by the end of the story, the entire government or whatever powers that be have been demolished, and then we're going to see this rebirth of a new government or new structure or whatever. But there's something interesting, I think, about addressing the fact that this is a province in a much larger area of the world where there are many things happening that we're probably not even seeing, because we're seeing such an isolated incident that, while is ground shaking to the people that are involved, is actually a drop in the bucket to the larger things that might be happening across the empire. And that's something that is actually more typical when we look at like stories of rebellion in countries that are massive, right? Like Russia, or in this case China, the United States, in United States history, like because these countries are so huge, there are lots of small stories of rebellion that go untold or are lost to history because they weren't massive enough to make that systemic change. So I kind of find that refreshing in that way.
Yeah, I think for me, probably the issue is like then when we talk about like what is like kind of diegetic, you know, like diegesis from like musical theater theoretically, but I'm just gonna use the term right now. Like what is
narrative theory also uses diegetic, so you're fine.
What is diegetic within the world? How does like the traditions and the conventions of the genres and the storytelling traditions the author pulls from deal with it? And then even bigger, how does it go within the market that the book is sold and within the cultural context that the book will probably be read in? Because yes, the book mainly pulls from like Chinese storytelling traditions and conventions, but also I think, for example, for this one, I think it's much more fair to still judge it kind of via Western storytelling market understanding conventions than, for example, A Hero Born, which is within the Chinese market, and it's understood for the Chinese market, which this one isn't. This one is understood for the Western market, where within world, it's very clearly understood that yes, empire is always. Empire is untouchable. Empire, we don't even care about it. Like,
And empire is also everyone. Like
every
Mhm.
the consistent narrative is every person is empire.
for every single one, versus then looking at, okay, but this is kind of will be read within this context where the empire isn't just the empire within the world as it is understood. The empire is a stand-in for a bigger system, and thus the themes are built within the book of the empire as the system is all powerful. You can't just go against single people, and I think that's where my problems come from.
Mhm.
That within this context, within the bigger Western fantasy bubble, when you have an empire as a system, and when it is set up within this book in this way, and when you understand the book within this way, which I do think is also very fair, because again, while it does pull vastly also from Chinese storytelling traditions, it is like you still also have the other market, or the other context within this way. It's just it fell flat for me, like,
That's fair.
because
That's fair.
because the themes weren't delivering what was promised. And for me, the promise again isn't defeating the empire. For me, the promise is the representation of an all-powerful system, of like there needs to be some. I wanted some narrative proof of like going against these single people is useless.
I can see where
I wanted just everyone to die, basically.
okay. No, I get it. I get why you want that.
Tragedy.
Yeah. No, I think you're making a lot of sense, and like I think that this goes back to exactly the difference that we're kind of like ping-ponging in between, which is like, again, this was intended for an audience who already understands that, and so it doesn't need to be illustrated for, but because we are a Western audience, we're like, give me the proof.
Yeah.
Everybody die.
Sarah's point is also kind of that the book was conceived within a Western audience, because S.L.Huang is an American citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She has Chinese ancestry, I believe. I don't know how, because I didn't look that up, but she lives and works in America. Funnily enough, she works as a stunt double, among other things, which is one of the reasons, in my opinion, why the fight scenes fucking slap.
The fight scenes were pretty good.
The fight scenes are amazing.
By the way, this is not me saying that she wasn't allowed to do this because it's within the Western market, and so she needs to cater to the Western market, yada, 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 yada. It's just that, like, I think as an author, you can make choices to explain certain things, not explain certain things, make certain decisions, and these decisions can be conscious or unconscious, but they have certain results. Basically.
It's basically just saying, like, you know, you knew the market that you were writing for, and so you took calculated risks, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can respect that.
And I mean, like, as someone who reads a lot of wuxia and xianxia, it is predominantly translated, because not a lot of people who write in English or German, which are my first languages, not a lot of people who write in those languages without it having been translated write wuxia stories. This is actually one of the first wuxia stories I've come across that doesn't come translated from Chinese. I will say that, I mean, first of all, like I said at the beginning, I do have a little bit of a leg up here because I've read quite a lot of stories like that, and so I am a bit more familiar with some of the thematic aspects that I also encountered in the Water Outlaws. But also, it does feel very different reading translated stories versus reading the Water Outlaws. Because if you think the Water Outlaws didn't explain a lot of things, boy howdy, does wuxia not care. Like, they do not care. You read A Hero Born, and they throw political words at you that make you go, what the fuck was that? I'm sorry.
The most amazing thing after reading A Hero Born, however, is realizing how much Robert Jordan took from wuxia.
Right?
All his fight descriptions are taken from wuxia, because wuxia doesn't describe shit when fighting. It's like,
no,
he does the flying crane and he did the jumping monkey. That's literally
like the crane descended upon the mountains. You're like, what the fuck does that mean? What are you talking about? I say this because I want more people to read wuxia because it's a lot of fun. You just have to accept the fact that you will not get shit. There are no descriptions that are going to help you. There are no explanations that are going to help you. And depending on the translation, there's not even a glossary. You just have to go in there and expect to not understand anything. You will have a great time.
Also, the other thing, and that I will say, I mostly the most understand why S.L.Huang didn't do it differently. And yes, I agree. The arc was completed. I wanted more of a neat little bow wrap up for Lu Chunyi.
Fair.
I wanted more. It literally, like, she stabs a tent pole into Kai Ching. Is that Sai Ching? Thank you. Yes. She stabs his tent pole into him, and then she walks back towards the capital. And then we know from the other ones that whose name I forgot again, story epilogue, that she wrote the like leaflets about the Water Outlaws, and that's why they have so many people coming. But we don't know what actually happened to her.
She just kind of vanishes. Is what happens to her. Which, you know what, considering that the spotlight has been on her for so long, good for her. But also, like, it would have been nice to spend another minute with her.
Yeah, I want to know what happens to her.
Like, I think she is perfectly justified in walking away from that shit and never looking back. But also, I want to walk with you, ma'am. I love you.
Oh, I wanted to ask. So, I remember in the Discord, Sarah, you said something about Lu Da did something that pissed you off. What was it?
It's when she went to the other bitch to talk about those two people something trying to oust her because she's pissed that Lin Chong won't let her train with the goth.
When she was jealous.
I find Lu Da is the type of personality that I find incredibly annoying already.
Very fair.
Because it's just like, give me attention. I need attention. Please. I want all the attention.
She's like that for real.
Why won't you let me do this? I need to do this. She reminds me, for real, she reminds me of a colleague of mine, and it's like the type of I need attention, incredibly insecure that I just can't deal with.
Poor Sarah. She's like, I'm living my work outside of work. Why?
And I already didn't like her, and then she went and tattled to that one woman that is then killed by Lin Chong, and I was like, no, you're done in my book now. I don't care what else you do.
I will, however, say in Lu Da's defense, it is very obviously set up that she has no fucking clue what she's doing here, politically speaking.
Oh, no. Yeah, I know. Which makes me just more angry. If you do something, at least, like, there's few things I can deal with less than stupid characters, okay?
Listen, in Lu Da's defense, she was giving I'm on the spectrum so hard.
Yes, no, I was 100%, I was like, you have ADHD or autism. Yes. Either or.
100%.
Which, incidentally, my colleague also has ADHD. And like it's literally okay. I had a workshop with her, and she was like, it was one of the first workshops, and she was like, can you give me feedback? Do you have any feedback for me? And I'm like, no, you did good. Like, I mean, sure, like, it's your first workshop. There's noticeable with a few things that you're still a little bit unsure, but they'll go by in no time because you have tons of work. I'm unsure. It's noticeable that I'm unsure.
It's okay.
If you want feedback from me, then don't be angry when I give you feedback.
I will say, as someone who has ADHD, but a different part of the spectrum from what Lu Da is giving, I read it as severe case of what is it called? Rejection sensitivity disorder.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Hardcore. Like
100%.
she takes everything personal because she can't not.
Sarah is suffering so hard up in the corner from me there.
I get it. I have a lot of friends. I am close friends with Sarah.
I'm friends.
I had to deal with telling Sarah about her hurting me at one point, while also trying to handle her rejection sensitivity disorder. My best friend has rejection sensitivity disorder. I know it. There's just like a very specific type of rejection.
I know. Listen, I also have another friend. I know. Trust me. I also have rejection sensitivity disorder because it's just part of having ADHD, a large part of it. But like I have another friend who is also ADHD and is even more sensitive, I guess, or has a deeper sense of rejection sensitivity disorder than I do. And so sometimes when he gets very fresh, he's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" I'm like, I have to grab him and be like, "It's okay. We're fine." We're fine.
Can you hold still for 5 seconds?
Hold still. I promise you, I'm not mad at you. It's okay. You're fine. But like that was Luda. That's what I
think
saw.
Another problem here is that Sarah is not friends with Luda.
Yes, yeah, that's
I think
the
if
part.
you were friends with someone, you would have a better time stomaching some things.
Yeah, probably.
No, I get it. I get it.
I will say one of my favorite things about Luda is every single time that something happens, she's like, "Oh my god, I should die for this." Actually, like so fucking.
I think my problem is the combination. You know, it's rejection sensitivity order plus incompetence. Okay. And I think I just can't deal with both together.
She was very incompetent. Poor baby. I was like, poor baby, you are so in over your head right now.
My favorite thing was every single time she was elder sister Lin, "I'm so incredibly sorry for what I did. I should kill myself." Like, honestly, real.
See, the problem is I'm the type of person who at that point would be so annoyed and just answer like, "You know what? I don't care anymore."
You want to kill yourself? Okay, go ahead. I'll watch.
No, Luda, no. Thing.
Criticism. I'm not someone who has brutal criticism. I'm someone who is incredibly friendly and has incredibly constructive criticism. I was literally just like, "Hey, you know, some things, they're like, it's normal." When I started, I was still a little bit like unsure when I said some things and like not very stable in like how to phrase things at the museum and whatever. You gotta find your script, you know. It's noticeable. Are you telling me it's noticeable?
Can you please register the second half of the sentence? I'm begging you.
Oh
man.
Oh my goodness. Geez. Okay. Any other thoughts that we have?
I would like to pour one out for Funroy and her husband, who decided to blow themselves up.
Yes,
because they were so. They listen. They're such cool characters. I love everything about how they are written. I love I love all of the scenes with them. Period. Like I love the way that Saijing essentially uses them first against each other, but also against Lu Junyi, because he specifically shows her how he treats them, so Lu Junyi is more terrified of him. Like that. Yeah. Intimidation tactics 101, right? Like he takes her with him into the pit, basically showing her this is where you could end up if I feel like it. And then he cuts off Funroy's ear, which
yes, brutal. It was brutal.
But the way that Funroy, and I think Jinglen is his name, I believe. I don't fully remember. But the way that these two
don't care about them.
He gets one pass, okay? But I do like him. I don't remember.
Did you say I don't remember men's names? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
It's so real.
Anyway, I love like the way that they were communicating with one another through fucking scholar notes. Hello?
Yeah, that was cool. I think the part when close to when I DNF'd was when I forgot who was having a conversation with the wife, and she was like, "Well, of course we have to blow ourselves up. That was the plan the whole time."
Yeah.
I was like,
It's Wu Young, I believe. It's
Yeah.
the person who does all the planning for
Yeah.
the strategist. That's Wu Young. Yeah.
Damn.
Like I really love how, you know, these two were like, okay, so we're gonna rescue the scholar because we want her for our people, and the scholar is just like, actually, TNT.
Yeah.
That's the solution here. Also, you know, this is not something we need to discuss because it's so blatantly obvious, but I would just like to pour another one out for the fact that all of this is just a really elaborate, not even metaphor. It's a really elaborate talk about the accessibility of gunpowder. That's what this is. It is the entire book, the entire storyline about the god's fangs and everything. It leads up to gunpowder being accessible for the general populace.
Yeah.
That's what this is. And I think that's cool.
I will say one thing still that I still don't know what was going on was just like their Lu Da being described as having the physique of a footballer.
In what scene was that?
That was
It
in the beginning.
The very beginning when Lu Da is described.
Really? Hold on.
Yeah.
I completely read past that. I need to
Yeah.
see that now.
I mean, it's referenced a couple of times that she's very tall, I think.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure it's the first time.
I feel like she was Andre the Giant coded.
Or maybe it's at some other point, because I remember it was right about the time also when Lin Chong and Lu Chunyi talk about the potential of her new printing press for printed money.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
And I remember it was there because I was like reading that word like 5 times and I was like, this feels so out of pocket.
Oh, amazing.
I don't know.
It was somewhere. That's the point.
It was somewhere. I'm not even gonna look because I can't help you. I don't even
That was just like, I tangentially know what happened. Okay, don't ask
Yes.
anything else of me.
it.
Done. Oh man.
Here.
But
No. It was
okay.
it was Gao Qi.
Gao Chu.
Gao Chu. Gao Chu was a thin man, an athlete and footballer with a thin mustache and beard and a thin beaky face that somehow matched his physique. On page 22.
Hold on, I need to see this for myself. I completely read past that. Oh yeah, there we go. Interesting. Now I want to look up the story of football and whether or not it has anything to do with ancient China, as many things do, because it's ancient. It's everywhere.
I'm gonna say more likely South America, because like South and North America, because like 90% of ball sports is
True.
Native American, indigenous, South American. It's like
lacrosse. I've just forgotten the other name for it. Is it also lacrosse? No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Whatever. I know that it's an indigenous sport. So that's pretty neat. Anyway, by the way, I didn't finish with my reread, but I'm almost done, and I will finish this because it's a 5-star for me.
Awesome.
Any day of the week. I love wuxia stories. I'm reading so many more danmei, so boys love, that are also wuxia, and they're so much more fun to me than xianxia, because xianxia is great, but it has a lot of gods and stuff, and that's kind of cool. But like wuxia is where there's so many politics that you don't even remember who the fuck said what, and it's amazing. I love it.
Still is living, and that's all that matters.
Yes. I had so much fun rereading this. I was like, oh, hey, nice.
Ma'am, where are you going?
Hi, baby.
She's like, oops, skirt, turn around.
I didn't mean to be on here. Bye. But we want you to be on here, kitty. Come back.
Oof. Any other thoughts?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
My brain is done for today.
Well, I feel like we did good.
Yeah, we did.
Awesome.
I told people how much I love this book. That's all that matters to me.
Okay.
A consideration for future buddy reads, though.
Yes.
Oh yeah, what's up?
Because now it's Steph's turn, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do we want every fourth book to be like a book none of us have read, or should we continue with just,
I think it would be really interesting to review books that none of us have read before.
That'd be cool.
Partially because, as you've pointed out, Sarah, it can be really almost overwhelming to read critically when you read for the first time. And when there is a book that 1, 2, or maybe all 3 members have read before, we deal with it differently than if we read it for the first time.
That's
consideration, though, when at least one person has read the book before, there's at least one person who can make smart points, the others.
That's
true.
So we could rotate. Like I think I like the idea of like the fourth book.
Yeah.
read, and
I
then
like
we go back.
that.
Also, I will say that this gives me more time because my challenge in picking a book was going through Scylla's Goodreads and being like, has Scylla read this yet?
No, I'm really sorry to say this, but I did in fact read Blood Silence, which you're telling me about.
I just got it.
You mentioned it in the chat, and the next day was like, actually, I ordered it off of Medimobs, and a special edition arrived. And I was like, I want to say I was there in your corner, and I was like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? No.
Well, I'm not changing my mind. Too late.
No, please don't. Please don't. Please don't.
Well, now I need to go see what you rated it. Goodness gracious. I'm like, didn't you just get a copy of this?
Well, like a month ago. What did you expect?
It was like in August or something.
Oh, well, anyway.
But
Sarah's going to be reading for the first time.
For the first time, yes. Also, I was like, we're 3 people. We have 4 books per year, so like we can do one book that none of us have read, and then
I'm down.
Now here's the question for that though. Do we want to like introduce some sort of criteria for our books, or are we just like anything goes as long as no one has read it yet and it like kind of hits at least someone's preference? Because I'm pretty sure that I can say this. Most of us are not predominant romance readers, for example. So maybe choosing a romance as the book that none of us have read yet might sometimes not work out.
I'm gonna say possibly nothing longer than a duology, unless all of us agree that we would have been interested in reading or starting the series anyway.
Very fair. I think that's a good point to consider.
Or like if it only the first book is out anyway, I don't know. But I think just generally speaking, a lot of times it's also more interesting and like, if it's a trilogy, basically it's maximum a third of the series already, and so like unless we intend to talk about the whole thing, I don't know how much there's to talk about.
Also, I mean we already have a lot of series on our TBRs and currently reading, and I'm looking directly at you, Sarah, because I know that we both do, and like consistently adding new long series to that might be kind of counterproductive.
That's also a thing.
So should we stick with standalones?
Yes, that's
a duology.
I'm also fine.
Okay,
me too.
I'm open to a duology.
Yeah. And like Sarah said, if like only the first book is out and even the author doesn't know yet how long it's going to be, I personally am game, but like we can discuss that a bit more in depth if we want.
And the other thing I'm also fine with or would be fine with is like, because I know like there's some in fantasy, I think there's some in horror spaces, but like series of standalones.
Yeah. I would be cool with that too.
So maybe we just throw a couple titles that we're interested in into the chat and see what sticks.
And see what sticks basically.
And then the last thing is I think we have mostly overlapping genres anyway.
Yeah.
I guess with horror, if we know that there's very specific things, like I know, for example, with horror, I'm usually fine with almost anything. I will not be reading the new Andrew Joseph White, however, because body horror with pregnancy is just no.
That's exactly why I want to read it, because I'm a masochist and I'm like, ooh, it's hitting all my triggers. Yay, I'm gonna die.
Woo!
Woo!
I want to read it because
I don't mind
worms.
body horror. It's more the pregnancy stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, no, I literally, okay, we're still streaming and we're just talking, whatever. I have a live stream in like 15 minutes. We're gonna go do
It's
sprints
fine.
over there anyway.
It's fine.
Yeah, anyway, you know what? Maybe we should just jump over there and keep talking.
Maybe.
Okay.
Let's first wrap up what we
this up.
wanted to do with future books here, because that's where this topic started.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe people watching, if you want to know what we're gonna read after this, join the Discord or follow us on Instagram or wherever. Because
we'll
I mean, we could also open the book that none of us have read to recommendations by other people that they want to see us review, with the caveat that none of us have read it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, what we could do is we could collect titles in the Discord and then make polls available on Discord /YouTube /any other social media platform that we have.
Yeah.
So people can have some sort of input, and then, we have the final word, because this is about us hopefully enjoying the book. But,
Yeah.
I think that would be cool.
I think that works for me.
Perfect.
Yay, plans.
Look at us. We can do this. And
Yay.
we only deviated from the topic once. Hey!
Yay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start to end the stream. But thank you so much to everyone who came and chatted, and anyone who's watching this later on. Thanks for being here. We're going to go do reading sprints in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.